Hello, today is the 12th of December 2025. I'm going to be talking about some heavier topics in this video, like emotional abuse, heavier emotions and unhelpful thoughts. Of course, with this video I want to, for myself and for others watching this, try and turn all those negative experiences and thoughts into a more helpful and powerful one. But nevertheless, I will be also talking about unhelpful things, so just a warning at the start of this video. Other than that, I just want to get straight into it. My dad has emetophobia, which is a fear, a very big fear of vomiting. And basically, it's not even about vomiting itself, it's about the thoughts that come with it, the emotions that come with it, and the feeling that you can't cope with those thoughts and emotions. His emetophobia is basically like my phobia or fear that I had when I was a teenager of anything to do with the topic of sex and sexuality. So I would very much avoid anything to do with that, and I was very afraid of it, and I basically controlled myself by generating a very, very uncomfortable feeling inside my body that stopped me from doing anything sexual, wanting anything sexual. It made me hide my body, and I was very confused about if I liked men or women or both, or what my sexuality was. I felt like I couldn't handle the topic. Anytime I would think about having sex, I would feel extremely uncomfortable. Anytime I would think someone else is in love with me or I'm in love with them, I would feel so uncomfortable. I would have to avoid that situation, avoid that person, hide myself, get away from it. I wouldn't allow myself to masturbate at all, ever. Wouldn't even allow myself to touch myself, and when I was interested in it, I would always be ashamed of any desires or anything I did in the past that was slightly in the sexual realm. I was just completely ashamed of who I was and what I wanted, and didn't allow myself to do anything, be interested in anything, completely controlled myself. And yeah, I mean, I really could talk about that topic for hours, and I truly mean hours, but I just kind of want to give a comparison of, basically, I know what my dad is going through. He doesn't believe it. Sometimes he does, sometimes, yeah, he does know. He never says I know exactly what he's going through, and I don't know exactly what he's going through. Every experience is different, but he would never say, yeah, Leona really knows what this is like. He would kind of say she knows some things. But he also has no idea of what I went through. He was always quite ignorant in that sense, always saying to me that his problems are much worse and my problems are as small as his pinky finger compared to his. Okay, as you can see, I am quite in an emotional state right now because, something happened yesterday that kind of triggered a lot of memories and a lot of unhelpful thoughts, and I'm working through that right now. But I still want to make this video to show anyone who's in this state as well right now, or has been or will be, that it's okay to have all these thoughts and emotions, and you will get out the other end as well, just like I always did, and I know I will now as well. Yeah, basically, I do know what he's going through. I do know what a phobia feels like, that just debilitates you completely, that feels like it's consuming your entire life. Like, there's not 1 second that goes by in a day where that thing is not affecting you. It affects everything you do, everything you say, everything you think, everything you feel, who you are, what your life is like. It's horrible. And I just want to make that clear, that I do know what that feels like. So what happened was basically that I wanted, and I'm going to take on a babysitting job because I love kids, I love being surrounded by kids, and I love minding kids, and I'm very interested in babysitting. And I've met some really nice people in the past few weeks who have kids and would like me to babysit their kids. And that alone are amazing experiences, meeting people who are just so genuine, so kind, and so loving. I purposefully didn't mention to Dad that yesterday morning I was going to this child's house and I was going to mind this kid for 2 to 3 hours, because I didn't want him, obviously, to feel extremely scared. And I also didn't want to approach him knowing that the answer would be, no, you're not doing that. You know, I'm afraid of you being around kids because they often carry vomiting bugs, maybe more than adults, you know. I don't know if that's actually true. That's just what he believes because of his phobia. I know that he's very against babysitting jobs, you know, anytime we meet kids or anything, he's very against that. He always wants us, when we come home, to wash our hands, to stay away from him, basically to clean whatever we've touched with, I don't know, just to not get any of the germs near him, basically. And he would always prefer us not to meet any kids or any people even who have kids. So I knew he was very against that babysitting job, and I honestly just thought maybe I could get away with not telling him, because that would make it easier for him to just not know, and it would make it easier for me that I wouldn't have to approach him knowing I'd get hammered with words like, no, absolutely not, how dare you, like, you know my fear is really bad, things like that. Because 2 weeks prior, I did tell him I'm meeting up with a woman who might want me to babysit her child. And he there immediately already basically blamed me for not understanding the fact that he has a phobia, and that I therefore, if I really understood him and would really be compassionate, that I would therefore not take on this babysitting job that I really want to do in my life. So he was basically saying, if you really understood what I was going through, you would stop your life for me and you would put me first. That's basically the same thing, you know? So he was already 2 weeks ago blaming me and putting me down for wanting a babysitting job and for not being compassionate enough and for not stopping my life for him, basically. So I really just wanted to avoid bringing that whole topic up again, and obviously I was still gonna go babysitting. Like, I'm sorry, if I want to do that in my life, and it's not like I'm forcing him to babysit, it's not like he has to meet the kids or the kids are coming over to our house. It's like I'm going over there. When I come back, obviously for him, I would wash my hands. I could even change my clothes. I could even go for a shower if I had to, as long as I'm allowed to do in my life what I want to do. I always stood by that you follow the path that is important and right to you, that you don't give up yourself or your life just for someone else. Obviously, that doesn't mean you have the right to disrespect someone else or to ruin their life. No, of course not. But it means you're allowed to do in your life what you want to do. That you don't have to be perfect for anyone else. You don't have to do that, stop your life for anyone else. That's not your responsibility. If he really doesn't want me to babysit and doesn't want to be near me after I've been with any kids, then it's his responsibility to deal with that. He has to move out then if he really thinks that way and really wants to avoid it that much. It's his responsibility to deal with it the way that he needs to. It's not my responsibility to stop my life for him. And I'm not saying like he should move out, but it was his words. He was like, if you do this, I'm moving to Spain, I'm moving out. Or he said, you're living in this house with me and I make the rules in this house and you're not going babysitting. Those were other words he used. And then to just back up, what I stand for, that obviously you shouldn't stop your life for someone else, is that basically the creator of the Thrive program, Rob Kelly, he had a call with my mum the other week and they discussed this. They were like, how far is my dad allowed to control my life or our family? How much is he allowed to control us in our life? And basically the simple answer is not at all, obviously. But of course, because he has this phobia, there are certain things we can do. Like, for example, obviously we're still allowed to live our life and he shouldn't be able or allowed to control that. But afterwards, for example, we could wash our hands, change our clothes, go for a shower, stay away from him, isolate ourselves. Like, we could do those things then for him if that's not too much hassle and if we're not being hurt by that in any way. And also beforehand, we should kind of make an agreement with dad that basically saying like, I am going to go babysitting, but I'll do X, Y, and Z so that you feel safe. Like, I won't ever go babysitting if the mother tells me they've been in contact with anyone who was recently ill. Or if they feel ill themselves, that obviously I won't go babysitting then, that I'd always ask the mother beforehand. So kind of to tell dad, we're going to do these things so that you feel a bit safer, but of course he can't stop our life. He can't expect us to not do things that we want to do. And it's also hard because I used to always feel very responsible for other people's emotions. Like, I always thought, it was my fault that dad felt so unsafe because I went babysitting, for example. It's my fault that he's panicking and I could make his life easier by just not doing things I want to do. I'd blame myself for the way others are feeling and thinking, and I think it's my responsibility to stop that or to change my life or change the way I am for others, basically. But I learned as well that that's absolutely not my responsibility. It is not my responsibility how others react to situations, how they're feeling, how they deal with things. That is absolutely up to them. And that's something I kind of had to really try and realize yesterday, because I was really starting to blame myself and to think that like I'm not a nice daughter, basically. I shouldn't do this and that. But at the same time, what I always stood for was so much stronger, which is follow your dreams. Don't give yourself up for anyone else. So that's always much stronger. What happened then was basically I got up early, obviously, that morning because I had to go babysitting, and I had hoped I could avoid him and could just leave. But he, for some reason, woke up earlier as well and then came out of his room, came to me and asked, "Why are you up so early? What are you doing?" And so I, being someone who doesn't lie if I don't have to and who would rather face the harsh truth than lie to someone or be lied to, I then said, I'm meeting that woman again I met 2 weeks ago at their house, and I'm going to her house where the kids are as well. And his first sentence, I think, was, "You know what I said about that? You know I don't want that." And then one of his next sentences was, "I'd rather kill myself than you go babysit now." First of all, that shows how obviously panicked he was, what a catastrophic headspace he was in, but also how he was obviously trying to make me feel so bad that I would then not go babysitting because my dad would rather kill himself than me go babysitting. So he was trying to make me responsible for how he was feeling. each second he just got angry and angrier. One of my first sentences was like, yeah, I know, and I'm sorry, like, I'm sorry. And he was like, no, you're not. And I said, yes, I am sorry, but you can't stop my life. You can't stop me from doing things I want to do. And I was really trying to stay calm. You know, I was nervous, and I knew like this would come up if he would find out I was going babysitting. I knew this was gonna happen. So I don't know, I was obviously quite like nervous and stuff, and I was really just trying to stay calm, obviously, because I knew that that would be the most helpful for me and for him. If I would have raised my voice or been like, no, I'm doing this anyway, then everything would have escalated even more. Some other sentences he said were, no, if you're doing that, I'm booking a flight to Spain right now, like I'm moving there. And you know that babysitting for me is a no-go. I've always had that rule, and you're living in this house and I make the rules. You're living in under my roof. And this is a phobia that I have. It's not just a small thing. And I was like, I know that. And he was like, no, you don't. I don't know, basically just saying to me that, like, how could you do that when you know I've got such a big phobia, and you know that's debilitating, and that's making my life worse now. It's making everything worse now that you're going babysitting and things like that. It's not making it worse. The way he was thinking, so catastrophic, like he'd rather kill himself than let me go babysitting. That's what is making his phobia worse. Nothing new was happening to him. Nothing new. He had those thoughts many times before. It's the same thing. It may seem like something new is happening because now I'm going babysitting, but nothing new is happening. It's the same thoughts he's having again and again that he always has every single day. Just there they were even stronger, even more catastrophic. And I tried to point out to him as well, like, about a year ago I used to always go babysitting as well, and he always managed that. Or when I had the teaching job in Spain, he always managed it, and he was just like completely against it. He was like, no, things like that. And then I mentioned Rob Kelly, you know, the creator of the Thrive program, who's working with Dad as well to get over his phobia. I was trying to give some examples of what Rob Kelly said, and Dad was just saying, like, no, he has no idea what it's like. And I was like, he absolutely knows what it's like. That's why he created the program. He may have not had emetophobia himself, but he got so many emetophobes over their phobia and created a program that is proven to work and to get emetophobes over their phobia. So he knows absolutely what it's like. I don't know, Mom heard the two of us then kind of, talking, and Dad's voice was obviously getting really loud, and he was obviously panicking. He was like, no way you're going, no, you're not allowed to do that. Like, how could you? If you would know what this is like, you would never do that, and you know it's making everything worse, and like, you're absolutely not doing that. You know, he kept talking like that. And then Mom was also, you know, trying to be really calm as well, and she was like, look, I'm here for you, it's okay, but we can't stop Leona from living her life, like. And this is new in Mom as well, because only since she had that call with Rob Kelly was like the first time she, I think, really said, like, we can't stop our daughter from living her life. Before that, Mom would usually come to me and be like, Leona, could you maybe think about not babysitting? She even said that 2 weeks ago to me. She was like, you know, Dad is really panicky. Can you maybe think about not babysitting? Making me responsible for his life. It is not my responsibility. That's something I really had to work through in the Thrive program. My parents made me responsible for so many things in my life that just simply were not and are not my responsibility. And I really was shocked when she asked me that a few weeks ago, but it was typical. I knew, yeah, she was like that in the past as well. I was making me responsible for Dad's pain and for what Dad was going through. I just couldn't believe she was really asking me not to go babysitting for him. She was asking me to stop my life for my dad. It really shocked me, but I still, and I just have to say, you need to be a really strong person to be able to do what I did then, which was to still go and do what I wanted to do, which was meet that woman and start a babysitting job. It takes massive strength to be able to stand up to both your parents and be like, I'm sorry, but I'm still living my life and you guys' worries are not my responsibility. And I don't know, like, I obviously don't want to sound like a harsh and horrible person, and maybe there's going to be a lot of different opinions about this topic, but from everything I've learned and from my own clarity in my mind, it's like obvious that you can't be responsible for someone else's life and for what they're going through. That's their problems. Obviously, I want to help him in any way I can and I want to support him and things like that, but not when it like comes into my life, not when it stops me from doing what I want to do, not when it forces me to be someone I don't want to be, do something I don't want to do. Then that's going too far because it's going into my life. No, but if I can support him and help him in any way that I can and I want to, then I'll do that, of course. But again, not if it comes into my life, just crosses the line, you know, that's not acceptable. So yeah, Mom was trying to obviously as well calm him down, and she was like, look, I'm here for you, and when you're panicking, like, it's okay, I'm here. And he was like, well, how much can you do when there's a vomiting bug in the house? Like, what good are you gonna do? And I was just trying to say, well, you'll get through that as well. Like, it seems scary, but it's not scary. Yeah, I don't know. There was no right answer, no right thing we could do, because even if we would have talked to him before I went babysitting yesterday, the same answer would have been no. Just simply no. There would have been no wiggle room with him. He would have just said, no, you're not doing that. You're not allowed to do that. I'll move away if you do that. You know, it would have been the same answer. So it's really hard to talk to people that just are so stubborn, that just will not change their mind, that will not even look at a different possibility. I just left. I drove to my babysitting job, and on the way I was obviously not feeling great, and the whole time while I was there I wasn't feeling great, and I was okay though. Like, I knew it's understandable, like, of course, who would feel great after something like that? And I kept tearing up as well and just being really upset about the whole thing. You know, it's a really hard situation, and I don't know what, you know, if I'm really right, but I have to believe. Like, I just need to believe that, you know, what I'm doing, I'm just trying to do what's right for me and what I believe in, just standing up for myself. And sometimes maybe I'm not always right, you know, maybe that wasn't the right thing to do, but I did what I felt was right and what I wanted to do for myself and with my life. And, you know, you can't always be right, you can't always be perfect, and there's gonna be disagreements and people you're gonna disappoint, but it's not your responsibility. Yeah, I don't know, and his words just kept playing in my mind, obviously, like how much he was blaming me for everything and making me responsible for everything. And that he was like completely disappointed in me, and thinking that we're not on his side, that we're completely against him, that we betrayed him, basically. Like, the catastrophic headspace is really insane. Yeah, I don't know. I really did enjoy the babysitting though. I really did enjoy it. And I was trying to actively calm my mind, obviously being understanding with myself, being like, yeah, of course you would cry now, and this is not a nice situation and it doesn't feel good. And, I don't know if there's even a right thing you can do in that situation. You just have to do what you think is right. When I came home, Dad was not home, but Mom was home, and she just kind of updated me and just said, they had a conversation and they were, both crying, and Dad was obviously panicking and yeah, not doing great, but still, for example, he ate his breakfast, which in the past he wouldn't have done if he felt panicky. So he is really getting better and he is improving in many ways. It's just like Rob Kelly said as well, he's able to drive, like he's able to ride a bike, but it's like he's still too scared to take off the stabilizers. He still wants them on, It's like he's able to do things and live his life without emetophobia, but somehow he's still holding on to those things, the stabilizers. He's still too afraid to let go because he still doesn't believe enough in himself and doesn't fully see he is able to ride the bike. He is able to live his life and manage things and cope. Yeah, so Mom was actually, supporting me, and she does think that I'm right, which is quite different, but she learned a lot as well. But then the evening came and Dad was coming back home. He was working down at our land the whole day. Basically, I was doing fine. Obviously, I knew that situation isn't nice, but I was doing fine. And I jokingly put one of my t-shirts on our dog. She was totally fine. Like, I wasn't torturing her. She was completely fine, and it was just a joke. I was just putting one of my t-shirts on her, and it was very funny. And I wanted my whole family to kind of see. So I left the t-shirt on our dog until Dad came in, and I wanted him, to see, and so we could all kind of have a laugh and look at how funny that is. Yeah, he then came in, and I called his name once. I was like, Dad, look, Akela, our dog, is wearing my t-shirt. And then he didn't answer, so I just kind of thought, okay, maybe he doesn't hear me because he was, in the kitchen doing his thing. And then I called him again though, and I was like, Dad, look, Akela's wearing my t-shirt. And then again, he didn't answer, so I was like, okay, that's weird. So I then just kind of, went back to what I was doing for a couple minutes. And then when he was then closer to me, like when I knew, okay, now he's definitely going to hear me if I speak to him, I then again said, Dad, look at how funny, Akila's wearing my t-shirt. And then with a completely blank face, he just looked over at our dog and looked away immediately and then walked away. And my heart is actually pounding right now, because how fucking cutting is that when a parent ignores your child? Like, how can a parent be so disappointed in a child, as if the child did something so horribly wrong that they now deserve to be ignored by you? I was trying to have a laugh with my family, trying to include him in it, even though he that morning was tearing me apart. He was blaming me for living my life. And I had forgiven him, and I wanted to include him in things again, and I wanted to have a laugh with him. But he couldn't get over his own fucking shit. That he just ignored me. He just completely completely ignored me. I don't know if anyone else can understand how cutting that is. That's the way he used to always treat me in the past, and I used to not even allow myself to say that that's emotional abuse. I used to just be like, you're exaggerating, Leona, like always blaming myself. That it's my fault, and when he'd do things like that, I would immediately look inside myself, be like, what did I do wrong? What did I do so horrible? I must be a horrible person. My parent is ignoring me. That must mean I did something so bad, that I was such a horrible person, that I deserve to be ignored, and I'm not worthy of his love or forgiveness. So after a while, I'll come to what my initial reaction was. But after a while, I realized that his reaction, him ignoring me, has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with me. It is completely his own problem and his own responsibility if he has to ignore his child. And honestly, he doesn't deserve to have me in his life if he treats me like that. I don't even want his attention if that's all I'm gonna get. I, yesterday evening, could kind of see, and then more this morning, that he's reacting to his own thoughts and emotions. That he is basically a 7-year-old child who doesn't know how to handle situations like these. I just saw that it has nothing to do with me. So I stopped looking for reasons that I disappointed him. I stopped looking for the proof that I was a horrible person, that all of this was my fault, that I deserved to be ignored, that my parent doesn't love me. I stopped tearing myself apart and thinking, what did I do so horribly wrong? Because I noticed no matter what I would have done, for him, it wouldn't have been perfect. Either way, like, the only thing that would have been good enough for him is if I would have stopped my life for him, if I would have not done what I would have wanted to do. No matter what I would have said, like, I'll do anything for you so that you feel safe, but I'm gonna go babysitting, that wouldn't have been enough for him either. I could have said the most loving, caring things in the world, it wouldn't have been enough. And also, his reaction is absolutely not my responsibility. It's not my responsibility to now change the way I am and who I am and what I want and what I'm doing, like, just to get his attention again. Like, it's not my responsibility to change myself. If he can't accept me, that's his problem. That just, a burden fell off of me then when I stopped blaming myself, and when I saw that that's not my responsibility, not my problem, and that it actually has nothing to do with me. His reaction has only and simply got to do with his own thoughts and emotions and the way he handles situations. So I then sat on the couch. Like, my initial reaction was to sit on the couch, and I was really shocked that he had ignored me, because I thought, he wasn't a 7-year-old child anymore. When I was a teenager, 14, 15, 16, he treated me like that always. So I knew, he was that 7-year-old child. He wasn't an adult. But I really felt like he had grown more, and he has. But yesterday he really, fell back for that period of time. I was just really shocked that he just ignored me. I mean, think about that. Like, what? My mom was just kind of looking at me as well. She was kind of like, is he ignoring you right now? She was really kind of shocked as well. But her reaction to me, like what she said to me, is then like, don't take it on. It's not your responsibility. You know, stay strong. Those were the things she said to me. And even though they're lovely, and I think her intention was really nice, and it's true what she's saying, it was also like, I don't have to always be strong for him. You know, that's the responsibility she gave me in the past. She was like, Luna, you need to be strong. You need to apologize because he's not able to. I was like, I do not need to be strong just so he gets my apology, just so he feels okay again, just so, you know, like, that is not my place to be the strong one. I am not his fucking parent. I'm his child. So I don't know, that memory from the past just came back when she was like, stay strong. I think she didn't mean it in that sense, like, forgive him, he's just a child, he's just hurt right now. I don't think she really meant it in that way. But it really reminded me of the past where she always had an excuse for him, always said he's just a hurt little child on the inside, he's not able to apologize, he doesn't mean it that way, he doesn't really know what he's saying and doing. That is not an excuse. That does not mean he gets to treat me that way just because he can't do it any differently and he's hurt. I'm hurt too. Why do I have to be the strong one? I don't. That is not my responsibility. If I want to fix things, then yeah, I'll do that. I'll be the strong one. But sometimes in the past, I didn't want to be the strong one. I didn't want to fix things. But I felt like I had to keep the family together just so he wouldn't fall apart. And that is just not my place. Yeah, so I was sitting on the couch and I was choking up. Like, I was so close to just bursting into tears and loud cries. But because my whole family was near me, I kept it in. But I was really wondering, how can no one notice the kind of pain I'm in right now, and that tears are just falling from me like a waterfall. Like, I was really crying, and I just, you know, I couldn't believe what was just happening there, and how, you know, what that really represented, like him ignoring me, what that really represented. I was just so hurt and so upset. Then slowly, obviously, I noticed that it's not my responsibility and that I didn't do anything wrong in that sense. I just lived my life, and I'm not letting him control my life. My life is my life. He can do whatever he wants to do in his life, but he can't just be allowed to control my life. So yeah, I don't know, I kind of slowly calmed down again then and tried to see, like, it's not, you know, it's not my thing. I'm fine, it's okay, I'm gonna get through this. Like, I've gotten through everything. That really gave me so much perspective back, that my problems never last forever. I always made it out of everything I went through, even the things where I thought I would never make it out of again. So I was like, I will make it out of this as well, and it's just a phase. And really, I just tried to not take on whatever he was trying to prove or trying to show with him ignoring me. I was just trying to not take that on and see it's his problem. And then later that night, because I'm a nice person and I wanted to say goodnight to him, like I do every night as well, I then went to say goodnight to him. And so I kind of opened his office door a bit, knocked on the door and said goodnight, and he just looked over a bit and looked straight back, completely ignored me again. And so then again, I was really close to tears, and I was just like, this is really horrible. Like, how horrible is this? And so I then went to say goodnight to my mom, and we hugged for a while, and she asked me if I was okay, and I just just couldn't hold it back in that moment. I just started crying and shaking my head, and I walked into my room because I actually just wanted to be alone and didn't really necessarily want her to see me. I wanted to keep it together until I was in my room, but it kind of came out when she asked me if I was okay, and I was saying right now, no. I knew that I would be okay, but right now, right in that moment, I wasn't okay. None of this was okay. Like, what the hell? And I knew as well, obviously, I was in a catastrophic headspace, I was thinking in a very catastrophic way, like, what the hell is happening? This is very much like the past. Like, this is really horrible. Those are very catastrophic things. So I knew also there was a different way to approach the situation with a more clear mind. If I would have not taken on responsibility for his emotions and not started blaming myself and been like, okay, if he needs to react that way, then fine, that's the way he needs to react, then, that situation wouldn't have affected me at all. Yeah, so I knew, like, as soon as I get back on that track, then I'll be fine again and stuff. So I knew I was very catastrophic in that moment as well. But I was also allowing myself to be. I was just like, if I have to feel the emotions right now and just want to be catastrophic and just, feel how horrible this is, then I'm going to allow myself to do that because I know I'll get out of this moment as well. Yeah, but she followed me into my room and gave me another hug and said again, like, don't take it on, just be strong and stuff. And I don't know, I was getting a small bit mad at her, which might be surprising to some people because she was being nice, but I was getting a bit mad at her because I was just like, how can she be with someone who is like that? I mean, nowadays I do understand a bit more why she's with Dad, because he did change a lot and he's a lot better in many situations. But in the past, he was always like this. And I just really couldn't understand in the past how she could always have an excuse for him. She always found a reason to keep loving him. Like, I don't know, I really couldn't understand it. Yesterday, it just really annoyed me that she was still being so kind to him when he was being so rude to one of her daughters as well. Like, she even, said darling to him, or, the German word, Schatz. It's like sweetheart, basically. She even still called him that or said, like, I love you, and she was still gentle to him. I was like, how is she just pretending? Like, what is going on? How can she truly mean what she's saying when he's acting like that to one of their daughters? The other reason I could find is that she just can't see how cutting and how actually horrible it is for a dad to ignore their daughter. But yeah, again, I also knew I was in a catastrophic headspace, and obviously I can't give her the responsibility there either. Like, I can't expect her to ignore her husband or to separate herself from her husband just because he's treating me badly. Like, that's also not fair of me. Like, I can't give her that responsibility when I have to deal with my own emotions, that's my responsibility. So yeah, but anyway, I really just couldn't understand why she couldn't see what was really happening and how horrible that was and how there was no excuse for it, but somehow she could still love him and forgive him and not think that it's horrible what he's doing in that moment. I don't know. So, but when she left my room, I then sat in bed and I was filling out my journals and I just cried really hard again. And I texted my best friend. He's on holidays right now, but I asked him if when he's back, if we could talk about this, because I really just felt like I wanted to speak to someone and to have a friend to speak to, and I feel so lucky that I do have friends I can speak to about this. In the past, I just had to deal with that completely alone, completely by myself. Because my sisters were also too young to understand anything. My mom somehow always had an excuse for my dad. And well, my dad was obviously usually the problem, and he was not approachable. So I had no one in the past, and I was just dealing with these thoughts of like, is all of this my fault? Am I a really horrible person? And I believed I was. I believed it was my fault and I was a horrible person. But I also believed that I still gotta do what I want to do in my life and stand up for what I believe in. And that takes such courage and such strength. It's not an easy thing to do. But yeah, I don't know, it was just really horrible. I couldn't really believe what was going on. That he was so disappointed in me that he couldn't even speak to me, he couldn't even look at me. Yeah, but then honestly, before I fell asleep and this morning, I really just gave his responsibility back to him. I was just like, his reaction is absolutely not my problem. So I stopped blaming myself and giving myself a hard time and just let him be. Like, just let him be without getting involved in that. He has to do what he has to do, whatever. I don't have to get involved in that. How great is that, actually? I don't have to get involved in anyone's reaction to any situation. That is, I don't have to do anything there. It's just, yeah. So that really helped me this morning. Yeah, the funny thing is he still hasn't spoken to me at all. This morning he went, completely out of my way. I didn't even see him this morning, and usually I see him every morning. And I usually say hi to him as well every morning. But this morning I think it was his mission to not see me, and yeah, I still haven't spoken to him, but the good thing is it doesn't matter. If he needs to ignore me, he needs to ignore me until he's ready to speak to me again. There's nothing I have to do because it's not my job. I don't know, it's crazy. And I don't know if I even explained all of this good enough and properly, but I don't know if anyone can really relate to this or if something similar happened. But I would still say, like, just because you disappointed someone doesn't make you a horrible person. It doesn't mean you were wrong. It just means you have different opinions, different viewpoints. And I don't think that giving yourself up or giving your life up is right. Like giving it up for someone else. I do not think that's right. I think you should do what you think is right and follow the path that is important to you. Obviously without ruining someone else's life and, disrespecting them, but follow your path. That can come with hurdles. But yeah, keep going, regain perspective, see what's your responsibility and what's not your responsibility, and then you'll find a way. Thanks for watching. Bye.